All right, let's dive in. Today, we're cracking open a legal document that is so much more than just a piece of paper. It's a declaration of war, really. We're going inside a sworn affidavit from a foreclosure case that turns the whole process into a battlefield of words. And just so we're clear, that is not a line from some courtroom drama on TV. That's a real quote from a sworn legal document filed in an Idaho court by a homeowner named Jeremy Bass. He was representing himself, and as you can probably tell, this was an incredibly high-risk, high-stakes move. And that really gets to the heart of what we're talking about today. See, this isn't just about a house. It's about what happens when an ordinary person, representing themselves, goes up against a massive corporate opponent. With the usual legal moves out of reach, Jeremy Bass decided his words were his weapon, and he put them right into a formal legal document. It was a fascinating and, frankly, dangerous gamble. So to really understand this fight, we have to first understand the weapon he chose. Bass didn't just fire off an angry email. Nope, he embedded these really provocative claims inside a very specific, very formal legal tool. Okay, this is the crucial part. An affidavit is a sworn statement. That means by filing this, Bass was legally swearing that everything he was saying was true, under penalty of perjury. That raises the stakes like you wouldn't believe. He wasn't just making arguments, he was putting his own credibility and maybe even his freedom on the line. Now let's break down the strategy here, because this was not just some random angry outburst. When you look closely, this affidavit is a carefully built, step-by-step rhetorical assault. It was designed to do one thing: challenge the opposing lawyer's conduct and integrity. You can see how he builds his case piece by piece. He doesn't just start throwing punches. He starts by framing the whole thing as an ethical battle. Then he starts to hint at incompetence, before escalating to that really personal challenge. Only after all that does he start to bring in evidence, accuse the lawyer of criminal acts, and then tie it all together to make a point about the whole system. Let's see how he did it. So let's look at his opening shot. Bass doesn't lead with insults. He starts by talking about things like professionalism and ethical duty. He's not just saying the other lawyer is a bad guy. He's arguing that the lawyer is failing at his fundamental job as an officer of the court, especially when he's up against someone who doesn't have a lawyer of their own. And you know, there's a real tactical genius to this. Legal experts point out that by zeroing in on conduct, Bass keeps his own credibility intact. He cleverly flips the script, suggesting the other lawyer's aggressive style isn't a sign of strength, but of weakness, a psychological dig that basically says, hey, a good lawyer wouldn't need to do all this. And boom, here's where Bass just blows the doors off. He goes from questioning the lawyer's skills to flat out accusing him of criminal behavior. This is, without a doubt, the most explosive claim in the whole document. He's saying the opposing counsel didn't just cross an ethical line, he crossed a legal one. And this brings us to the million-dollar question, right? Was this a brilliant move to throw his opponent completely off balance? Or did he just go way, way too far and risk angering the judge and losing all his credibility? This is the knife's edge his whole strategy is balancing on. So you might be wondering, how did he get away with this without being immediately shut down? Well, it's all in the careful wording. He used phrases like seems to and perhaps to make his wildest claims sound like observations, not hard facts. He alleges criminal actions but doesn't name a specific crime, which is a clever way to sidestep a defamation lawsuit. It's really a masterclass in pushing the envelope right to the very edge. But there's a whole other layer here. If you know what to look for, you can see he's hinting at some very serious stuff without saying it outright. When he talks about his opponent being driven by personal gain or making claims without proof, he's winking at these major professional violations, all without having to formally prove a single one. So Bass went all in. He laid all his cards on the table with this incredibly aggressive strategy. What happened next? How did the court react to this rhetorical bombshell? Well, the answer wasn't in some big, detailed ruling. It was in a single, quiet, and utterly devastating footnote. That's it. That's the whole response. After pages and pages of fiery, detailed accusations, the judge just brushes it all aside in one sentence. The silence here is deafening, and believe me, it says everything. Okay, let's break down what that footnote actually means. In the world of law, burying your decision in a footnote is a massive signal. It says this argument isn't even worth a full discussion. So with this one little note, the judge sent a bunch of powerful messages. 1. Bass used the wrong procedure. 2. Courts don't like to publicly call out lawyers. And 3, and this is the big one, the judge found zero merit in his claims. It was a clear signal to just stop. So, given that incredibly blunt dismissal from the court, does that mean Bass's whole strategy was just a total failure? Or were there maybe some hidden upsides to taking such a wild swing? Let's try to weigh the pros and cons. Looking at the potential benefits, Bass definitely created a very strong record in case he wanted to appeal later. And you have to think he put some serious psychological pressure on the other side. But the costs were huge. He pretty clearly alienated the judge, which is never a good thing. And all this drama might have distracted from the actual legal arguments about the foreclosure itself. It's really a perfect snapshot of the impossible choices people face when they're in court alone. When you step back, this one affidavit really puts a much bigger issue in the spotlight. It's about more than just one man's fight for his house. It forces us to take a hard look at the fairness of a legal system that was built for professionals, but is now being used more and more by regular people. And this right here is the fundamental problem. If the official ways to report bad behavior are so complicated that a normal person can't figure them out, what are they supposed to do? They're stuck with a terrible choice. Either stay quiet while they feel they're being taken advantage of, or they resort to these kinds of high-risk, unconventional tactics we've been talking about. And that leaves us with this final, really important question. A case like Jeremy Bass's forces the legal system to look in the mirror and confront its own blind spots. Is it really enough to just hand everyone the same rulebook? Or do courts have a bigger duty to make sure the playing field is actually level, especially when the power difference between the two sides is just so massive? The answer to that could change the meaning of fairness for a lot of people.